Hello and welcome to Find Your Freedom, a podcast dedicated to helping you truly find freedom in all aspects of life. Join your hosts and their expert guests as they share practical tips and strategies for finding more freedom in your life. It's time to take control of your life and create the future you want. Let's find your freedom. Here are your hosts, Lenny the Boss and Omid Rad Investor.
Boom, boom, boom. We are back with another episode of Find Your Freedom. And before we get into our first guest today, which is awesome, I might add, this episode is being brought to you by Wealth Builders Mortgage Group. So if you're looking to get a long-term rental, you're looking to get a short-term rental. Hey, if you are looking to get a personal home for yourself, Omid uses this mortgage group. I use the mortgage group. This is the place that you want to go for all your needs. Now, with that being said, we all know what season it is, right? We all know that it's tax season. So it's only right that we brought in the boss, the tax boss. All right. So now her mission is to provide education to those who want to create wealth with real estate by using the rules already established by the IRS. Now, her motto, if you are not playing the game, you are losing out on keeping more of your money. So, do you want to play the game? And the answer is absolutely yes. So with that being said, Ana Klein, how are you feeling today?
I'm so excited to be here again, you guys. I love doing this podcast like a couple of years ago. So thank you for having me back.
Yeah, absolutely. I know Omi was just mentioning to you, the first podcast was like crazy. One of the best download podcast that we have. So we definitely happy that you were able to come back. And today, we want to get into some top level stuff. We want to get into some auditing, but before we go there, give us a little background. Let us know where you was born and raised at.
Yeah, absolutely. Born and raised in Mexico. So if I say anything weird or I, misspell something, it's because English is my second language. Okay. Born and raised in Mexico. My mom lived the American dream, married an American, and moved to Wisconsin when I was 14 years old, and now I live in Austin.
No, I love that. It's you're not the typical accountant. I think you have way more personality than any accountant I've ever met, and I think that's why we always have a lot of fun. So I think just kind of getting into it. I know we've done topics on taxes and like the benefits of real estate, but just want to kind of see like what happens when the IRS comes knocking on your door. And so, just from like a preparation standpoint, what are some like best practices and maybe later we can kind of get into some, maybe like a story of like, somebody like one of your clients kind of going through it and what the process was like.
Yeah. So first of all, nobody should be scared of audits. Everyone is always like, oh my God, am I going to get audited? Are you going to represent me? And I'm like, you guys, are you laundering money? Like, why are we so scared? Like, what is happening? Right?
We're all guilty.
Yeah, I mean, and if you are,
Let me hide.
like, why are you telling me this? Right. So that's a really number one, a lot of questions that people ask, like, what if I get audited? I don't want to get audited. It's like, listen, it is a pain in the butt. I will give it to you that way. It is expensive. There's a lot of administrative things that go with it. It's like if you're going through a lawsuit, but if you have nothing to hide, it's going to be okay. So it really starts from the beginning. I always have this, like this little triangle of when it comes to being a good business owner, including in real estate. And it's a foundation. You got to start with your bookkeeping. If you guys don't follow me on Instagram, I am a nagger for bookkeeping because everybody hates it, including myself. But what they do is they don't do it. And then they expect all these tax savings. And then they expect when the audit comes that we're magicians and we're just like, yeah, here's all your receipts, sir. Like, that's not how it works. So it all starts from bookkeeping. So number one, if you were to get audited, they are going to come and ask for receipts. A lot of people think that bank statements will suffice, and that's not the case. You need receipts. And I'll give you guys a little tip for you who are listening. Receipts are a pain in the butt. I get it. But if you create a Gmail account with your business name, so let's say omidrei@gmail.com, all the receipts should go there. So every time you have a receipt, just send it there. so that in case of an audit, you search on your Gmail account. So it all is going to start here. We are going through several audits. And if your CPA tells you they've never been audited and you should come with us because we never get audited, that's BS. Everybody gets audited. It has nothing to do with the CPA. It has everything to do with the taxpayer. So we can get into detail of that if you guys want, but don't be scared of an audit. It's going to be expensive, but you better have your ducks in a row.
Cool. So, well, I guess let's start there. Let's start because, a lot of people probably don't have their ducks in a row, and that's the reason why they're nervous. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I might be one of them. And what I mean by that is I'm not disciplined enough to always keep those receipts. But you talked about bookkeeping. So can you just explain what bookkeeping is and just give some best practices on bookkeeping for people who don't have much money to spend and people who got some money that they can spend?
Yeah, absolutely. So bookkeeping is essentially your record keeping of all your income and expenses as you have a business. And it is time consuming, but hire a virtual assistant. Like, you should not be doing this task that is everybody hates. So if you don't got the money to do this, then you got to sit down and make sure that you are on your game about income, all the expenses you're having. And if you're listening and you're like, this is hitting me hard, you're not the only one. Most people don't want to do this, but it's like, if you are clean from the beginning or start getting clean on this, you'll be fine. So it's really just, how much money are you making every month? Where's your money going? And put it in a spreadsheet. That literally will suffice. Now you want to start getting a little bit more prettier by using such as like another software like QuickBooks or Stessa if you have rentals. That's also a lot easier. So like, start from the beginning, and then eventually you're going to have to outsource it. People try to hoard this horrible admin task and they're like, I don't want to give it away. And I'm like, why? Like, pay the $500, get it off your desk and go make more money. I mean, it's that easy, right? So eventually you should not be doing it. You should just be reviewing financials every single month. But the worst thing you could do is not know where your money is. And if you are listening and saying, well, I have $10,000 in the bank, that does not mean anything. That doesn't mean anything. You have to have real good records every single month.
Okay, so can we talk about that a little bit? So you talked about receipts. So let's say like like what's common, let's say in the short-term rental space, somebody has some sort of bank account, let's say maybe like a Relay, and they're running their their expenses through there. And then let's say hypothetically, like maybe somebody I know, they didn't save their receipts, or like maybe like they have it on a credit card. So like what would you say like what are some better practices to like save receipts for somebody who's not good at that?
Yeah, and allegedly someone this is always like
asking for a friend.
Yes, asking for a friend. Listen, you don't have to be perfect. There is this little, it's called the Conan rule in the IRS, where essentially if they audit you, and we've seen this with clients, and I'll tell you guys a story really quick, but we've seen it with clients where in audits where essentially they'll say, okay, you're in the Airbnb industry, right? And you forgot receipts to, I don't know, Home Depot or Costco because you were buying supplies. They're going to see that pretty much everything else is the same. So they're not going to question it. They're going to allow it. So it's not, they're not super nitpicky. I mean, it depends the auditor that you're getting. But if you forget it, okay, like it's not going to kill you. But you want to kind of get in the habit of just saving your receipts. So it's not the end of the world, but you want to make sure that you have some sort of process that will allow you to not have this be an issue.
Gotcha. Now, I'm gonna stay on this too because I'm asking for a friend as well. So you're just to recap, you're just saying be as thorough as possible. You're saying make sure that you have your charges where they should be. Make sure that they're being spent on business items and not personal items. Things of that sort of nature. Is that kind of what you're saying to make sure?
Yeah, I mean, Cody Sanchez said this the other day, and she was like, you got to follow the money. Like, how do you not know where your money is? I mean, you are here money bags that you're just like, oh, I forgot I spent $10,000, which I have had clients. I had a client who was like, I think I got a check for $75,000. And I'm like, you think? Like, what
Yeah,
do you mean?
it must be nice.
Exactly. So it's like follow the money, because that's going to either make it or break you. So it's like, just like you do for your personal, have some sort of software like the ones I mentioned that tracks where your money's coming in and when your money's going out.
So can you maybe share a story of like a scenario or like a hypothetical of maybe a client that's going through the process and like, so what is the IRS asking for? Let's say like it's a short-term rental operator. And so like what are they asking for?
Yeah. So, like I mentioned at the beginning, it's a long process. We are on month 7, okay, of this. And now, right now, it's March 3rd, and there's been a cut to the IRS agent. So, I don't know how this is going to pan out, right? So, the way that it works is you initially will get a letter. So, if you get a letter from the IRS, by the way, no, if you listen to anything, they will not call you, they will not text you. They're not allowed to show up to your work anymore. They used to be able to. So the only way you're going to hear from the IRS, no, it's crazy. There was a story, side note, I was working when I was like super young. The IRS agents did show up to this work that I was doing because they were not paying their payroll taxes. But they had a nice ass house. They had a G-Wagon, but they couldn't pay their taxes. So don't believe everything you see on social media. So they used to do that. But now the way that you will know if you're getting audited is they will send you a letter and they will say, hey, this is an examination. We are examining, and they will detail specifically what they're looking for. I do not think that anyone should handle this on their own. We have had some people who are like, I got this, because like I said, it is expensive. But having someone who knows the IRS and how the auditors work is way better than you representing yourself, just like if you were getting sued, right? So the letter will come. Don't freak out. Like, I promise you, like I said, unless you're money laundering or doing something illegal, it's okay. Even if the worst that's going to happen, as long as you have not been evading the IRS, you'll pay it back. Okay. Is that the worst that could happen? No. Are you going to go to jail? Depends what you did. So get that letter, send it to your CPA, and say, hey, I'm getting audited. Then we talk with the IRS agent and we're like, okay, usually they send you the letter today and they want it by tomorrow. You just call the IRS and say, you got to work with them. Here's the thing that everybody needs to understand. They have a job to do, just like you do. Their job is to collect as much money as they can from you. So their job is to prove you wrong, and your job is to prove them right. So you get the letter, you talk to them, and you say, hey, I need a couple more days. As long as you communicate, they are very good they understand. So communicate with them, get your CPA involved, get the power of attorney so that your CPA can represent you. They start asking for documents, you provide them those documents. Now, here's where it gets tricky, where people think they can outsmart the IRS, okay? Like, it is a wild concept. I had a client, no longer a client, by the way, in 2020.
This is going to be good.
This is gonna be good. Here's the tea. Okay. I did not know this, but he had a construction business, a roofing business, and it's very profitable and you get paid a lot in cash. So what happened is he was like, I don't really want to pay the taxes. So I'm going to start getting the checks made out to me personally, or him personally, and depositing it into his personal bank account. And I'm like, well, they're never going to know. So during COVID, one of the things, there's no rule of who's going to get audited, but one of the things we have seen a pattern is that if your income is really high and then it drops, they're like, well, that's weird. Are they hiding money? Right. So this is what happened during COVID. They went from exactly. They went from like 5 million to like 2 million. They're like, well, what's going on? So they actually asked for their personal bank account and they're like, let's take a look at your bank account, sir. And they started seeing just deposits, 50,000, 10,000, 30,000. And I'm representing it. I'm like, hey, sir, like, what are all these? Because I don't know what to do. And he's like, well, I started depositing income from the business into the personal because I didn't want to pay taxes. And I was like, you can't do that. That's illegal. So it's like, in that case, is he going to go to jail? No. But the interest and penalties that the IRS is going to make them pay is not worth the couple $100,000 that he would have paid in taxes. So there are ways that people think they can outsmart, but they will ask for your personal again. So that's one story that we had. So it's like, don't think you can outsmart the IRS, because they will get to you. And then when they do that, they come with vengeance, right? They're like, oh, they're trying to screw me here. Let's look at last year. Let's look at prior year. Let's look at what's going on. So that's a bad one. I could tell you guys a good one that is currently happening.
Okay. So I get it. So basically it's like, all right, if you get audited, don't panic. Send them what they're asking for. And then depending on what they're reviewing is how deep they're going to dig. So if everything starts to, like you just mentioned, 5 million down to 2, why is that? Let me ask for additional information. It's funny because I had someone that called me on 2 days ago asking me some tax questions, and they were saying, hey, if I deposit this money into my personal bank account, do I have to pay taxes? And I told them this. I said, let me just make this clear. I said, if you receive income, you have to pay taxes on it. Now, where you happen to deposit it, that's on you. I said, but as long as the IRS get their piece, then they don't really care. And tell me if I'm wrong if I said this. I said, they don't really care where you deposit the money. They just care that, hey, you got $1,000, you in the 30% tax bracket, they need their $300. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. That's why the 1099s are there, because they're like, okay, if you're not going to show it, I know that the company, Chase Bank, is going to send you one, and then we're going to know that Ana didn't pay it. So it's like, do not try to outsmart the IRS. This is the thing that people try to do. Now, should you challenge them when you want to take a position that you believe in? Absolutely. But don't think that they're smarter than you, because they're not. They have a job to do.
So let me ask you, you kept using the word expensive. And I think that's one of the things that is in the back of people's minds when they say, hey, I have to pay taxes. And obviously they usually writing a big check already back to the government. And so what is expensive? Like, how much are we talking here? Are we talking, tens of thousands of dollars? Or are we talking some hundreds of bucks? Like, can we give some type of range or something so people just can take a breathe and say, okay, cool. I can deal with that. Also budget for it. God forbid if it happens.
Yeah, listen, it's so hard because it's like when I'm suing somebody and my attorney's like, it could be 5,000. Now we're at 15,000. You don't know, right? Because it could. Have you ever tried calling the IRS, by the way? This has anyone? Have you tried calling the IRS ever?
Okay. No.
Well, it's literally, you can be on hold for 2 hours. This has happened to me. And then they hang up. And then you got to call back and pray to God, literally, that they answer. So it's like that. So it's an hourly thing. So it's like, you don't know how long this could take you. I've seen audits where they've been pretty easy. I would say minimum, the client has spent about $5,000. But on this 7th month client, I know we're probably on the $20,000 to $30,000. Now, obviously, their sales are a lot higher. They went through a lot more. But if you have your ducks in a row, it's a lot easier. And I will tell you, with this one client, they're going through an audit for a short-term rental, only that you were asking about. And one of the reasons why they're going through it is because they saw this, it was almost $2 million depreciation because they bought a really big property. Yeah.
Wow. So yeah.
I'm not going to talk bad about the agents, because I'm not, because I need them on my side, right? But they also were like, what is this cost segregation? Where is the tax code for this? So it was a lot of us making them or giving them education, which I was like, I'm pretty shocked about this, but okay. They don't got the budget to hire people like us, right? So they were like, hey, what is this cost segregation? $2 million depreciation. So here's the thing. Our clients were smart enough that they understood that from the beginning, they needed to invest in a good cost segregation company and a good CPA. So the biggest thing, what's expensive, are you sleeping at night when you know that your CPA or your attorney's got you? Because to me, that's priceless. So they invested in a cost segregation company that cost them about $10,000 to $12,000, but they were audit proof. So whenever the audit came, I literally called the cost seg company. I was like, hey, I need you guys audit proof. Let me know. And they gave us everything. When they got audited, they were like, Ana, we don't want anything to do with this. This is why we pay you. You figure it out. Let me know what happens at the end. To me, that's priceless.
Wow. Yeah, that's super interesting. So, all right, so they're going through that. So we're kind of educating them, like we, as in you're educating them through the whole cost seg interpretation, and so what additional things is a client needing to show proof of at this point, like say independent of the cost seg?
Yeah, this is very interesting. So if you are in real estate or in the short-term rental, the time log was huge. So what the reason they got audited was because they saw this almost $2 million depreciation against their high net income. And they were like, not going to happen. So the cost segregation company came in, gave their reports, got it. That's good. But of course they started, remember, they have a job to do, right? They have to make sure that they get their money. So they started asking for other questions, such as, okay, show me your time log that you spent, that you were real estate professional status. They were real estate professional status. And what did you do? So we provided them with calendar of what they were doing. They were asking, one of the things that they asked for, they have real estate, and then they also have a service company, has to do with business. I don't want to really get too much into the details, but they were asking, okay, we see your real estate company, but we also see you have this other service company. We need the records for that. And they started asking for big deposits. So when they saw big deposits and big expenses, so like when they were like $59,000, $12,000, they said, can you send us the record for who you paid and what that was for? Let us know the check. So our clients, I mean, I quote this from the IRS agent. They said, it has been so great working with a company, and I give it to them because they have their internal bookkeeping company. They said, your records are immaculate. Whenever we ask you for something, I got it. And that's what they understand. They understand. I mean, these, our clients are making 5 million. It's like, they understand that they need to invest the money in having an in-house bookkeeper. Because imagine right now, they would be like, oh my gosh, where's that $10,000 check? Oh my gosh, where's this? Like this, in and out. The delay is on the IRS more than anything. They ask us, the next day they have everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But that's not always the case, because I understand that sometimes the budget's not there for an internal bookkeeper, right? But the IRS agent did say it has been really nice working knowing that your things are immaculate. Now, that's not to say that when we were on the call, the IRS agent tried to make my client feel like a POS, because they're like, well, you're not an accountant and blah, blah, blah. And my client was like crying. She's like, I feel like I'm going to jail, because she was very aggressive. I was like, that's their job. Don't take it personal.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. That's a wow. So I guess people want to prevent going into audit. That's the whole key. So I would guess that people want to prevent doing things that would cost a red flag. So do you happen to know just some things you can tell everyone and say, hey, make sure that you do these things, because these are some of the things that people do that can potentially cause that red flag?
Yeah, there isn't really a book, but here's the things we've seen trending from myself and then from seeing court cases. Number one, rep status and short-term rental loophole are really high up there. So if you're listening to this and you're in real estate and you're claiming this real estate short-term and don't have your time log, you better do it today, because that is like the number one reason. We had 2 clients who lost, not to our fault, but they didn't have their time log. There's nothing I can do, right? Number 2 is when your income does increase and then drastically decrease. We've seen that that's sort of a red flag, because they can see, are they hiding money, or was it legitimate that they went from 5 million to 2.5 million? Like, what happened? Schedule C's are more likely to get audited than S corps or partnerships. So if you are running a Schedule C, that's more likely to get audited. And the typical, when people just don't have their stuff together and every expense is even, 15,000, 3,000, 4,000. I'm like, wow, that's really good math, that every single expense was to the dot, 0. That's also a red flag. But besides that, they're also, a big thing is like, in my heart, they're not auditing like these billionaires. Like, they're auditing us. Like, we're in the middle, so it's like, they're also not auditing people who make less than probably $50,000 of like, what am I going to get here? So it's like, where am I going to go? In the middle where people are making money.
So can you explain a little bit, like the whole Schedule C versus S Corp, and like why there's more risk versus one or the other, or like why, has more red flags?
Mm-hmm. I don't know the reason why they think that, but here's the thing. What I believe is that when you're a Schedule C, so this is for any active income. This is not for real estate. If you're holding real estate, this is if you are a consultant, a wholesaler, a property management. if you're netting over $50,000, so after all expenses, you're making over $50,000, you should look in, your CPA should have told you, hey, we need to make this an S Corp because you're overpaying in self-employment taxes, but also because you're more likely to get audited. And I think this is just purely speculation. I do think that it has to do with the IRS might see that if you become an S Corp, you're actually taking things a little bit more seriously because there's a lot more compliance. There's financials that need to be disclosed, the balance sheet. So they might say Schedule C people are just maybe just kind of have this on the side, don't really take it seriously, and they're trying to write off everything in their life. And that's a red flag because with the S Corp, there's a little more legality that goes with it.
Interesting. Interesting. I have a scenario for you, and I want to see if you can help me out with this. So let's just say Joe, he owns real estate. He owns some long-term rentals, and Joe also owns a lawn mowing service. Okay, so he got two different businesses here, and let's just say he owns 3 long-term rentals, and all 3 of them have lawns that need to be cut on a weekly basis. So how does he do that? So he owns these rentals, he owns this company. Should he pay his other company? And if he does that, is there any value or benefit in saving taxes on doing that?
That's such a great question because it's the same question that a lot of real estate investors ask, but with this property management company. Like, I'm going to create this property management company that's going to manage my rentals. I'm like, why? So let me explain to you how, okay? Now, I'm not saying this is case by case. First, your tenants should be doing their own lawn. So maybe you put it in your agreement that they should be cutting their own lawn. But if that's not the case, here's how it works. Long-term rentals, and if people are watching on my left hand, long-term rentals are passive income. Passive income is not subject to self-employment tax. So it's kind of like the best place to be at, all your rentals. Then you have your lawn mowing business. That's active. That is subject to self-employment tax. So by doing the thought, and this also comes from the property management company, the thought of so many people are like, oh, well, then the rentals will have losses and now I move money over here. And it's like, well, you're literally moving money from a not so great tax box to a really good tax box because this is passive and you're not going to be subject to self-employment. And if you have depreciation, these are going to be 0. So why are we moving money from here to active income? Now, if you're cash flowing so much, that might be low-hanging fruit strategy that we do, but just cut the lawn, take the supplies, and that's it. But there's no reason to be billing in between these. Now, if there's partners and like, again, there's cash flowing that there might make sense. It may make sense, but let's think of bigger strategies because this is going to just save you a couple $1,000s.
Okay.
And the same thing goes with the property management company of like, oh, I want to manage my properties. And I have a client who has about 7 storage units, doesn't have a property management company, just runs the storage units. And he came to me, he's like, well, I heard I should get a property management company. And I was like, for what? He's like, I don't know. Like I saw it online and I think I should. And I'm like, okay, well, let's talk about it. And he's like, lending purposes. I'm like, no one's lending on your income. Everyone's lending on your storage units. How much are they worth and what can they take? They don't care because you're literally moving money from one place to another. Now, if you wanted to put your spouse on payroll so we can start investing into SEP IRAs, it may make sense. But let's make sure it makes sense before we start creating that company.
Okay, so there's no tax savings there is what you're saying.
There is, but the numbers have to be really high in how much you're cash flowing in order for that to happen. But if you're breaking even in your rentals, why are we moving money back to the active income? So, yeah.
Interesting.
That's cool. So I want to make sure that I'm understanding everything. So kind of everything in summary. So let's say we have a lot of short-term rental listeners. So we got the cost seg. Make sure you're getting it from like an actual professional company, not some like low budge kind of company. Number 2, the time logs. So making sure that your time logs are actually current and updated. And then the bookkeeping component, just make sure that you have some sort of standardized bookkeeping with receipts. Is there anything else that we're missing, or is there anything else that you would say like is a that we should be aware of, or is like a good best practice?
Yeah, I think those are like your top 3 things. And then obviously having a good CPA strategist who's going to help you through this. Here's one thing I want to caution a lot of people on. Actually, now that you bring this up, Hamid, in case a lot of us don't know this, because like we were talking earlier, they don't teach us this stuff in school, right? But a lot of us, the lack of education that we have when it comes to tax preparation is, well, I'm just going to go with my grandpa CPA that is like 90 years old, and nothing wrong against them, right? It's like, that's who I'm going to use. But then you're trying to be like a multimillionaire, but your CPA only works with people who are W-2. Like, it doesn't make sense, right? And so it's like leveling up and investing in a good CPA strategist is number 1. But here's another thing that I see a lot. I will be honest, tax preparation can be a cash cow. That's why you see H&R Block, that because it's a Walmart. What's $300 times 8,000 people? A really big cash cow business, right? The problem becomes a lot of people do it and they don't sign your return. So that's illegal. So if you are going with your friend who just decided one day they want to prepare taxes to make some money on the side, but are not signing your return, that's illegal. Number 2, when you as the taxpayer, you sign your return every year, right? You're like, oh, first you sign an engagement letter. That is a CYA for me, 1000%. Just so you know, if something comes up, you didn't tell me, that's on you. Number 2, when you sign your return, you are agreeing that everything that the tax return preparer put on there, you understand and you agree with. So in case of an audit, so let's talk about this audit that happened. It's a great example. Had a client, had a window washing business, and they had a fleet of trucks or vans or whatever. After you have 4 vans, you can no longer take the mileage deduction. You have to take actual expenses. He didn't know that. Why would you know that? I mean, I get it, right? Like, that's not your job to know. But the CPA kept doing this. So they got audited. They had like 12 vans and they were taking mileage on every single van. You can't do that. So he got audited. And his response when he came to us, he's like, I'm just going to blame it on the CPA. I was like, good luck. So the IRS said, we don't really care. You can go after the CPA because he made a mistake, right? To go sue your CPA or the tax preparer it's not worth it. So who had to eat all of that income, the taxes and penalties? The preparer. So you signing it, you're saying you understand and you agree with that. So going with someone that just decided to take a class online and is doing your taxes and then expecting to blame them, unless you can prove that they were actually committing illegal stuff, it doesn't mean anything. And by the way, there's people who commit illegal stuff and are still selling programs who were CPAs. They're just no longer CPAs.
Let me make sure I'm grasping.
Yeah.
I know, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Crazy.
So you're saying if Ana does my taxes and I sign off on them, I'm saying that I understand everything Ana did, correct?
And you agree.
And I agree. Now, this is the thing that I find interesting is that the individuals are coming to get taxes done because they usually don't know how to do it. So whatever the CPA tells them, honestly, how do they know that is right or wrong to sit there and say, I'm not going to sign this because you ain't tell me to give me my time log. They might not even know about a time log. Their specialty is, I know how to analyze the deal. I know how to go out and get the deal. I know how to raise money. I know how to manage the property. I hire the experts to be experts in that category. So how, when my tax person give me my taxes back, I ask a couple questions because I think I'm thorough, but who knows? And who knows that it's right or wrong? I mean,
that's a very valid question, and I think a question that everyone listening was like, "Wait, what am I paying you for then?" Right? Completely understand. And here's the things I would say about that. Number 1, you should have a tax strategist because you're going to walk through this entire year. So when you come to me and you say, "Hey, I now have 8 vans," I already know I'm not doing that. Now, can people make mistakes? Absolutely, we're human. If I had made that mistake, our company will 1000% reimburse you and pay for those penalties because we made the mistake. that we're the small percentage. Not a lot of people would do that because we don't have to, right? So it's like, you would hope you're working with someone ethical that if, hey, I forgot to file your return on time, now you're getting hit with a $200 fee. I messed up. I should take accountability and pay you. I don't have to, but I'm going to do it. So work with a tax strategist that is ethical, hopefully, that is going to be your partner in this. But you don't know. And that's why you don't want to be working with people who are just doing this during tax season and they disappear at the end of tax season because they made their couple $100,000 tax preparing and they have absolutely no loyalty or anything to help you in case of an audit. I've seen people who are like, I'm trying to call my auditor. I just had a client who was like W-2 earner, got audited, and oh my God, it's wild out there. It's like the wild, wild west. And he's like, I'm getting audited and I owe 40,000. I'm like, well, let me see your return. And his seat prepare, whatever, was deducting $45,000 of expenses because he's like, well, I travel to work and I have to use boots and all this gas. And I'm like, you're not allowed to do that. But he's like, well, I was like, how much did she charge? He's like, oh, $500. I'm like, okay, well, I don't know what to tell you, man. You get what you pay for at the end of the day. I'm sorry, you guys, but that is true. So to answer your question, you don't know. That's why you want to go with someone who is ethical. I mean, you could get scammed anywhere, but make sure they're signing your tax return.
But the thing here is you don't know if they're ethical until the issue come about. It's not, it's not like, oh, should that be a question that you ask when you interviewing for CPAs? Hey, just want to let you know, hey, what happened when, you took accountability and you made a mistake? Like, and I'm asking these questions because to me, signing it means nothing.
I think that's a very fair question.
Right. Like should you, when you're vetting for a CPA, what questions should you ask in the manner of that? I'm not talking about, hey, are you, a tax strategist? Hey, do you own real estate yourself? Hey, I get those questions, but I'm talking about, if you make a mistake, like who
I mean,
so this is my opinion. I think it's like referral based to a degree. And it's like you have the guy who's like, hey, I know a guy and he's gonna hook you up, right? Versus, hey, I know a guy and this person, they have like an educational background and they're specialized in this. So I almost think it's like where are you sourcing, like how are you sourcing your person? And I feel like that gives you your answer of like it's almost like a reflection in the mirror. Like, okay, so like who's like, what are you looking for? And it's almost like you're kind of, fishing for, what kind of person you're looking for that's helping you out.
You can definitely, we have licenses. So you can Google the license of if they have license. You could Google people's name. That's what I'm saying. I could Google this one guy that I Googled. That's not talking bad. He got disbarred or whatever you want to call it from a CPA. And he's still selling programs. He can't sign tax returns, but he can tell you to do all these things. So it's like, it's just a wild, wild west out there. And I think one of the things you need to ask, and I will speak for my culture only, our culture, my Mexican friends, who's ever listening, we are what's the cheapest for the best? And it's like, when has that ever worked? Never. It's never worked because the electrician who charged you $20 didn't get a permit. Now there's this. You end up paying the white guy to come and fix it because Jose did not know how to fix it. Like, that's the honest truth. So it's like, either you get with the program or you get what you pay for. So referral, check their licenses, and honestly ask questions. If for some reason you owe $0 or you're getting a refund, like, ask why. You should know, oh, well, we did this. And if it sounds too good to be true, like you see on social media, it's too good to be true.
I don't know, man. The problem is everybody go in with the intent of saying, I won't want to pay. So the minute that you tell them that they're not paying, I mean, they're overjoyed with happiness, So, and I think about scams, right? And I think about how people fall into scams. They fall into scams because the scams tell them something that they want to hear at the end of the day, and they like all for it. So they go ahead, with it. And, I never knew that. So I'm just a little baffled over here. Just like, wow, I never knew that once you sign off on this document, the tax preparer has no more liability, no more skin in the game.
Unless you, and yeah, it's a wild thing, right? It's like, unless you can prove intent that they have been scamming, that they are fraudulently telling, because this is how this one guy in Texas got caught, because he has been telling people all the time, do this, do this. And eventually the IRS will catch on and be like, wait, you've been telling people for years a scheme or a tax loophole that wasn't true. And that's when you can go back. He's still out there. He's not in jail. So it's like, yeah, it's really, really hard. My parents' CPA a long time ago also was doing this. He just went and partnered up with somebody else who had a CPA license. So it's like, our stuff is not really regulated. And here's a wild statistic, and then I'll stop talking about this. 70% of CPAs will retire in the next 10 years. And it is the lowest degree that is being handed out. So people are like, oh, AI is going to take over. Yeah, it's going to take over that W-2 that no one cares about and no tax strategist is taking. But the tax planning, and when it's complex, AI will not take over brain. Like, they're not going to take over attorneys for simple things. So it's like, now more than ever, like, my goal is to, like, anyone who's here listening who's like, should I get into accounting? Like, absolutely. Like, there's such a need for good ethical accountants.
Wow.
So speaking of accounting and finding your freedom, what does find your freedom mean to you?
Finding my freedom changes every year, but I feel like it always is consistent with the goal. And for me, it's really easy to compare yourself. I'm sure everybody does it, to like, oh, well, this person's doing this and now they have a private jet. And it's like, all right, for me, finding my freedom is really like doing whatever I want when I want, knowing that if I don't want to work on a Monday, I have staff that's super smart and money's coming in and everything, that I can go and spend it with whomever I want. When I have children, I want to be a present mom. This weekend, I'm going to visit my grandma and my mom. That's, finding my freedom, knowing that I have enough passive income that is going to allow me, because I always feel like, you're going to die. We're all going to die the same way. Like, I don't want to be buried with money. Like, I want to be able to use it and enjoy these memories with my family.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Listen, you're packed with so much information. And on top of that, you're real, which a lot of people like, and you have a great personality. So I know there's going to be a ton of people who's going to say, I need to get in contact with her. So with that being said, how do people get in contact with you?
Yes, the best way to get in contact with us, and thank you for that compliment. I try to make this really just easy for people to understand, right? It's on Instagram. You can find us on Tax Boss Ana. You can fill out a questionnaire and see if it makes sense, and we can help you out. And if not, we put a lot of free education out there for people who need it.
Awesome. And it's good to know that we're part of the boss family here. Lenny the boss, the tax boss, so, I don't know what mean, you got to get down with the boss family, brother.
Yeah, I gotta convert rad to boss.
We got the tax boss over there. Got Lenny the boss over here. So, we're growing on me. We're growing. We're making a statement out here in these streets. Like the young folks say, we're in these streets, on me. We're in these streets. But hey, we're coming to the end of the show, and what we like to do is the big boom session. So with that being said, let's get ready, get our listeners to turn their volumes down, because we're about to break some speakers. So on a count of 3, 1, 2, 3, all 3 of us is going to say boom at the same time. All right, y'all ready to go? Can I get some thumbs up? All right, with that being said, 1, 2, 3. Boom! Awesome. Check this out. We just had the tax boss on here, and listen, there was so much information given today that you're going to have to rewind this episode probably about 4 or 5 times. Make sure that you have a pen and a pad ready, because there's going to be so many gems. Now, with that being said, we only can cover but so much. So reach out to Ana, because she's a wealth of knowledge. And on top of that, she's going to be honest with you. She's going to be straightforward with you. And you guys going to have a cool conversation, laugh and joke. So, that makes everyone feels good during tax time. So reach out to Ana. Believe me, she'll take care of you. And with that being said, we also need you to leave us an honest 5-star review, because that's how we bring on more Anas onto the episode. And we need you to share this. Share this with your brother, your sister, your cousin, your aunt, your uncle, your mother. Share it with everyone at your job, all your coworkers, the ones that you like and the ones that you don't like. Until the next Find Your Freedom, we talk to you soon. Peace.
Bye.
Peace.
Thanks for listening to Find Your Freedom. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. While you're at it, please help us spread the word by leaving a rating and review and sharing the podcast with friends, family, and colleagues. Until next time, get out there and find your freedom.